Hello everyone, today we are going to see about Hydatidiform mole or commonly abbreviated as H.mole. So what is the H.mole arises from? The H.mole arises from the trophoblastic cells proliferation. What is the trophoblastic cells? So abnormal proliferation of the trophoblastic cells forms the H.mole. So what is a trophoblastic cell? When we have the zygote, so we have the outer cell mass as well as we have the inner cell mass, and we have the blastocele, that is the inside one. This outer cell mass will give rise to the trophoblasts. The trophoblasts will be forming the placenta as well as the chorionic villi. It will also form syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, that is of two forms of this, but in general it will be forming the chorionic villi as well as the placenta. So when this trophoblastic cells, after the zygote has been formed, when this trophoblastic cells form abnormal proliferation, then that results in Hydatidiform mole. But along with Hydatidiform mole, you should know that the choriocarcinoma, invasive mole as well as Hydatidiform mole, these three in addition together, it is all known as gestational trophoblastic disease. It is abbreviated as GTT, but it is known as gestational trophoblastic disease because everything arises from the trophoblasts which happens during the gestation. Now let's see how a Hydatidiform mole presents. The Hydatidiform mole, since it is formed from the zygote, it will present with the typical pregnancy symptoms, like there will be bloating, they will be having a protruded abdomen, just like how there is in pregnancy. But the most important thing is they will be having a nausea and vomiting. Why? Because the trophoblastic cells are those which releases the HCG. So there will be excess of nausea and vomiting. And what about the uterine height? The uterine height will be much higher comparatively. Like for example, if the gestational age is only 16 weeks, but the uterine height will be at about 20 weeks. How will the question be given? So when we have this is the at the level of the umbilicus, when the uterine height is at the level of the umbilicus, then it means that it is 20 weeks. But they will give you a question like the actual gestational age is 16 weeks, but the fundus is felt at the umbilicus. So to answer this question, you should know that the umbilicus corresponds to the gestational age of 20 weeks. So why is this discrepancy? Instead of being at the 16 weeks level, why should the uterine height be at 20 weeks? This is because it is not the regular fetus that is present inside, it is the Hydatidiform mole, so which generally presents with an increased uterine height. What about proteinuria with hypertension? The Hydatidiform mole will present with proteinuria with hypertension. This is because the trophoblast will form the placenta as well as the chorionic villi. There is abnormal proliferation. The normal placenta and the chorionic villi is not formed. Therefore, they will be releasing certain factors such as anti-angiogenic factors or even vasoconstrictors. So all this will cause vasoconstriction all over the body, resulting in hypertension as well as proteinuria. So this is the reason for hypertension and proteinuria in Hydatidiform mole. This mole can present with two types. Either it can be complete mole or it can be partial mole. So what is a complete mole? Complete mole, you should remember, what is the normal set of chromosomes? It is 46. So the complete mole, it will have an empty ovum. The ovum will not contain any DNA, nothing inside, and it will be fused, it will be fertilized with egg, which will be 23 eggs. This sperm which fertilizes this ovum will be 23 eggs, and it will duplicate its DNA material such that this altogether will form 46 XX. So since it resembles since it is similar to 46, that is a normal chromosomes, it is known as the complete mole. whether the complete mole or the partial mole, which mole has a higher chances of progressing to choriocarcinoma. It is a complete mole which progresses to choriocarcinoma compared to the partial mole. Now let's see what is a partial mole. In partial mole, we have an ovum which has 23 eggs. So this is fused, this can be fertilized by 2 sperms. So it can be either 23X or they can be 23Y and 1X. So finally we can have either of the combinations. So it can be 69XXX or 69XXY or 69XYY. So either of the combinations can present as partial mole. So this is about the partial mole. This is about the complete mole. Here you might ask me, if the sperm which is 23X fuses the zygote, then we have 46XX. What about the sperm if it is 23Y? Even if the 23Y fuses the ovum, we will not be having 46YY. 46YY is incompatible. So therefore we don't have such a presentation. Either it can be 46XX or nothing. But partial mole can present with any of one of these chromosome combinations. So this is about Hydatidiform mole in short. Thank you for listening all this while.